We're back, everybody. We had to put that a little bit longer. That the views expressed on this program are not necessarily those of, anybody else. Including Meaning of Catholic. I'm Jeremiah Bannister, your host. This is the, Wednesday, July 28th edition of PaleocratDiaries, and I am set, rip-roaring, and ready to go. Obviously, because I've got this dope music playing. I played this on the episode that I shared yesterday. If you haven't seen it, you're missing out. You gotta go check it out. I'm gonna start doing that, right? I'm gonna start making some videos, premiering them, getting in the comments section during the week. But this song, it was a hit. Everybody loved it. Especially Tim Flanders. I know you love this, Tim. Oh, I don't know if I ever heard this song this far into it. This is jamming. This guy's rocking out. I hope this is helping your day, by the way. I hope this is helping your day. Every single Wednesday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here, Meaning Catholic, PaleocratDiaries, with your host, me. Today's going to be a whole bunch of fun. I just wanted to say again, as a reminder, if you did not see, if you failed to see, which would be a really big bummer for you, you got to go check it out right now. The video that we shared, it's a Q&A, right? It's a Q&A because, see, here's the thing, is that I don't do currently, I'm not doing a whole bunch of live interaction. I will do it. I did it last week, but I don't have it set up yet so that the comments can show up in the video stream. And I really like to have that. I'm doing this on OBS. I hate StreamYard. I hate it with a passion. You don't even know. StreamYard, Skype, Zoom, all them. Blah, can't stand them. I really like OBS. I like the platform. So the thing is, you have to figure out a way to import it and a way to make it look stylistic and everything else to fit what you do. And so that's what I'm working on right now. I'm actually working on it with my buddy Jonathan Ross. Working on it with him, and so it'll be soon, okay? But the comments that take place during the show, we make a special episode during the week. We make a special episode during the week that deals with those comments, my favorite ones. So if you post a good comment, it doesn't matter. It can be super deep, encouraging, right? One of those personal things, or where you shower us with praise over at Meaning Catholic. We like those too. But it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And of course, I was in the comments section as well. And so I got to engage with people while I was, watching myself, which is kind of weird, but it was also kind of fun too. All right, last thing. I got to say this. I don't know if you've ever had, what is this called? The Leather Rose, Deadwood, the cigar company. Oh, this is amazing. I had to get it. And so that's what I'm puffing on today, to be quite frank. I got that. And of course, I've got my coffee because it's Wednesday. It's the middle of the week. We got a lot left to do. We've gone through Mondays, the Munders. Okay, we've gone through the Munders. You start off your Monday great. Okay? Start off your Monday great. You got your Tuesday. You got your Tuesday shows, and then you got Wednesday. And that's a double doozy because on Wednesdays, not only do you have this show, but you have Kennedy Hall. Kennedy Hall over at the Crusade channel. And again, I got to say, your boy's going to be on the show today, again. And so I'm really excited about that. It's a huge honor for me. I think that Kennedy is really great at what he does. It's amazing, actually, to see him do his work the way he does. It's really, he's a natural, isn't he? And of course, Mike Church. And I've followed Mike Church for a real long time. I've followed him for a real long time. So I'll be on the show later, and we're going to be talking about, I think I'll be on at 4, and we're going to be talking about how in these times, it's something I even brought up in the show yesterday, how we can, in times of darkness like these, how we can collaborate and work with those who may not be traditional Catholics or even more Catholic at all. Because I believe you can. Well, I believe not only that you can, but that you must. It was one of my criticisms, in fact, of the distributist community was that it was so distinctly Catholic that it was almost like hermetically sealed. And so it was one of those things where it's, it can take off in your small village if you run the place, right? But you have to be able to dance with who you brought, play the cards you're dealt, kind of thing. And so you got to deal with what you got. But all right, we have a good show for you. Make sure, of course, not only to comment, but also if you want to connect with us, make sure PaleocratDiaries.com. And if you want to connect with me on a more personal level or set up interviews, even debates, there's one maybe in the works, PaleocratDiaries@gmail.com. All right, so here's the deal. There we go. Look, by the way, look at this. Remember last week, the green screen ain't happening. I said, no. I said, I'm an artiste, man. I'm going to create this bad boy. And so I did. How do you like that? So here's the thing. I put on the title of the show, are we destined for ruin? The West is in a really terrible place, isn't it? It's in a real terrible place. And it's really easy to get on and to just simply talk about all the cuckoo crazy. It just is. It's easy to talk about it. I actually promised when I first started doing the show again, after many years, when I started doing the show again, I said, look, I'm not just going to be just another reaction channel, because there's tons of those hot takes, right? The blah ha ha moments where you can just sit there and say, well, look at this crazy person over here, and everybody laughs. And that's important, right? Shame. I think public shame is actually an important thing. At the same time, and if something's ridiculous, it's worthy of ridicule. And I think that a lot of people have lost that. And so at least a traditional understanding of that, and so I think that's important, but at the same time, that doesn't move the dial any. It has the potential, if you can tear it down enough. It's one of many prongs that you can have in a methodology of dominion, right? Of taking over the place for the kingship of Christ Jesus. But it's insufficient in and of itself, and yet so many people, and part of it's the mediums that we use, right? We're like, so many people are on Facebook, so many people are on Twitter. I hate Twitter, by the way. If you're on Twitter, that's gross. You're icky gross. You're an icky gross person if you're on Twitter, and if you like it, if you're like, oh yeah, I'm checking Twitter every day. Whoa! You're gross. You're gross. I can't stand it, but each one of these places, doesn't matter where you go, all of them are prone to sensationalism, right? So all of them are prone to the extremes. And that's true even of anything like TV news. When studying journalism, one of the things that you learn is that video is supreme for TV news. If you have a picture, and I experienced this, there was a fire up the road from my house, and I took some really amazing pictures, actually, of the firefighters working on it and stuff, and I went out, and it was a pretty crazy scene. The story behind it was wild, but the thing is that I took all these pictures. Well, the news shows up, and they're asking, does anybody have footage? I showed them these pictures. They look great. My buddy showed them this half-cocked video, and they were like, oh, that's hot. Why? Because it's moving. And not only that, fire's the best. Fire is the best because it's destructive. You're watching annihilation, and people go, oh my gosh, I'm glad that wasn't me. Poor sucker, right? So the platforms themselves are prone to this. So it's easy when whether you're creating something or whether you're sharing something, whether you're consuming something, it's super easy. It's lowbrow, bottom of the barrel nonsense to just simply every day just do the giggle McGiggle pants, sitting there, oh ha ha, look at the people, look at the dummies, and it's especially bad, isn't it? Isn't it especially bad? And I do this all the time. I'm not meaning to just point fingers. I got a bunch pointing back at me. But isn't it like extremely worse? Much worse. That we as believers in Jesus Christ, that we not only do that, but that's the primary emphasis. There was a situation recently that I saw. It was a girl on TikTok. This is an example. Girl on TikTok. She shares this video. It is obviously a cry for help, right? Obviously. She has a baby. And this baby, she doesn't want it. And you can tell she doesn't want it because she calls the baby thing. I can't handle that thing. And she's crying. And that baby's just crawling into the door, just kind of pushing the door. Looks super adorable. She's crying her brains out. I can't handle this. I'm not ready for motherhood. She's obviously postpartum. Now, I knew somebody who had that real bad. Bad enough that on Christmas Day, she took a gun to her head. Told her husband she was going to get coffee. Had her kids in the car. When the cops got there, there was bone. Had to be taken out of the kids. I spoke at her funeral. I was the eulogist. It was a tragic situation, but I'm seeing this girl, and I'm seeing people share it and say, oh, look at this person. What a wreck. What a wreck. But how many people who shared that, how many people really prayed for her or even thought about her the next day? Because that girl went to sleep and she's awake now. She's awake again. Let's hope. How many prayed for her? So I'm just using this as an example because I do this all the time. I used to be much worse. At least I'm trying to be aware of this problem. But it's easy to just tear stuff down. It's easy. And I see this in the Catholics, the commentariat all the time. I said, it's easy, man. You can just find anything in the Catholic commentariat, especially traditional Catholic commentariat. Just going against the Pope, for example. And there's things to say. But how many of them seriously pray? And not pray just in a negative way, but say, I'm praying with the intentions of the Pope. How many share positive things? Like if you had to rank them up, if you had to put them on a scale of what you've shared, I've done it for myself. It's bad. And I look at it and say, who am I? I'm a dude with an opinion show. I'm a dude with an opinion show. He's the Pope. So I'm not meaning to go on forever about this. I'm meaning just to say that when we're talking about things like this present darkness, when we're talking about things like what do we do for the social kingship of Christ? What do we do? How do we do it? How do we accomplish that task? I've said before, it's more than videos. Videos are good. They're important. In fact, I deem them necessary at this point. However, they're insufficient. Christ the King is not going to be done by an opinion video. It ain't ending here. The debate is not over here. Insufficient. We have to have a positive way of dealing with issues, and a positive way to say, yes, okay, let's look at the negative. Let's see what the world is doing that's so bad. I said that before. We can use that in some ways, oftentimes as a reference point, especially if the culture has turned themselves over to the devil. If the culture has turned itself over to the devil, and we, as a paradigm, you can say, man, it seems as if almost every single score, a worldview, a paradigm issue to say, look, that when you see this, it doesn't matter if it's about human origin, purpose, what is justice, what is love, what is marriage, what is life, what is the end of humankind, what is it? If on every single one of those issues, it is not only godless but antichrist, you're in a culture and a civilization that has turned itself over to the devil. So if that's true, then in some ways we can say, well, look, do differently or for different reasons, the right ones. So it's okay to see these things. I'm not saying don't ever look at reaction stuff. I'm saying if that's all we do, and if that's all I do, then I failed. If at the end of my life I'm laying on my deathbed and I think, what did you do in life? And I go, I made a bunch of reaction videos. I made a whole bunch of reaction videos, folks. I will have considered my life a failure. So here's the deal. I say this. Oh, and I should say also, before we even move on, I distinguished between revival and restoration, and I did so for a reason. Some people might be confused by that. Let me stoke this bad boy up for a second. This is really good. By the way, this is a good cigar. I'm not gonna lie. Had it with my priest. Had some cigars with my priest. And it was a great time, and I found one of these, and I said, well, that sounds good. And I love them. So, okay. I made a distinction between revival and restoration, and I did so for a reason. Revival has quite a history, especially here in the West, right? And in the United States, for that matter. In fact, I was part of different revival movements back in the 90s. That was when I had my conversion experience as a Protestant, as, you know, right after high school. I quit drugs. I was homeless at the time. My grandma, she found out, and she brought me to her house, said, look, you know, you're going to stay with me. I'm not going to have you stay on the street. I had a garbage bag with clothes, Starlight Mints, a Chunky bar, marijuana, and Marlboro Menthols. Marlboro Menthols or Marlboro Mentholates. Either which way, menthols. And that's what I had in my bag. And it was in this rundown camper, and I was staying in that camper. Okay. Well, my clothes were staying in that camper. There was enough raccoon marks and droppings that I said, I don't think so. But I'll leave my clothes there. But I had this crazy, wild experience, right? I talked about it on an episode with Tim Flanders. And the thing is that shortly after that, there started to be these revivals in Grand Rapids. I lived in Battle Creek at the time. So I'd hop in a car with some friends of mine, and we would go over to the Grand Rapids Assembly. So we went to Grand Rapids Assembly, and it was there that I witnessed for the first time someone involved with the Brownsville revival, or Pensacola. That was the fire revival. People weeping and shaking, trembling, prophesying, falling down, slaying in the spirit, dancing and singing for hours upon hours. And I was into that. And then we started to get infected a little bit with the Toronto blessing, so-called. Rodney Howard Brown type stuff. The Holy Ghost bartender. What was he, from South Africa? Where was he from? You speak in this monotone voice and a funky cadence. Lord, fill her up, Lord. And yet people all around the place laughing hysterically. Unable to talk. You're talking businessmen, lawyers, doctors, not just common folk. And I was involved in that heavily. I went to a Bible college that was involved in that. So I've studied revivalism, Protestant revivalism. I grew up Pentecostal. I experienced that. I saw, the cutting the carpet, running up and down the aisle, hooting and hollering, swinging the suit coat all over the place. We were one interpretation of one Bible verse away from handling serpents, to be honest. They might not like to think about that, but it's true. Tennessee Hill Country Pentecostalism. So the thing is, though, is that it didn't just begin in the 1900s, though. It began earlier than that. And you can see with the various great awakenings that have taken place. And those were important for the continuation of Western civilization as we know it. And in each of those times, you would see darkness prevailing. Something wicked was happening. And the people were sensing their complicity in the problem. And so what they would do, they would repent, they'd cry out, they'd shake, they'd quake. They'd fall to their knees, fall on the ground. They'd hear the altar call. They'd go sit in Feeney's chair. They were interested. They were seekers. And it changed society for a while. But what they ended up finding out statistically There have been studies that have looked at this, historical studies, that said within a matter of years, the rate of children out of wedlock through the roof, the rate of alcoholism through the roof. And part of the reason why is because while emotions are being experienced, and look, people, they should feel those emotions of sadness for the sins that they've committed. They should. And yet at the same time, it's like it's left there. And they want that feeling again, that catharsis. And that's it. But that's not a social theory. Catharsis is not a social theory. So people need to say, well, what did those revivals not do? They didn't catechize. They sucked at catechism. They were really bad at it. And by the way, I am sorry. This is an aside, totally an intrusion. I'm sorry. I just said sucked. Sometimes I forget that I'm on a different channel and it's not just my channel. And sometimes I can be a little bit intense. I can say words that some of the kiddies might not, talk about different topics that might not be appropriate for kids. And I'm genuinely sorry about that. I'm working on it. But the thing is, those people would feel those emotions. They'd go through the hoops. They would get back in church and everything else. And then it would fade away because that feeling goes away. Whatever happened to Brownsville, by the way? Whatever happened to the Toronto Vineyard? The airport vineyard? What happened to that? Do you know? Tell me in the comments. Is John Arnott still doing that crap? There was a time at Christ for the Nations, John Arnott showed up. People asking questions and stuff. And they were asking him, why at the Toronto Blessing, why are there people... And this is a Pentecostal revivalist college, by the way. But people were still concerned with this. Why are there individuals, cock-a-doodle-doodling like roosters? Cock-a-doodle-doo! Right there in the church. People barking like a dog. Slithering like a snake. Howling like a lion. Roar like a dragon. And he had an answer for each one of those. And I thought to myself, he said, when talking about the dog, someone said, well, why the dog? What's going on with that? And he's like, well, what do young Christians do? Or what do young dogs, little puppies, what do they do when they sense that the master's almost home? He thought that was deep. He thought that was deep. What do they do? And I was like, pee on the carpet. They pee on the carpet. No, they bark. Oh, no, they pee. You've never cleaned up pee, Mr. John Arnott? You've never cleaned up little puppy pee? Because little puppy's so excited. His tail's wagging. Peeing all over the place. Take a newspaper. Get away. What are you doing? But they were bad at catechism because the leaders of this, they knew how to whip up emotions or they knew how to take advantage of the moment. And I'm not saying each one did. John Wesley's an interesting case in point. People should read Ronald Knox's book Enthusiasm. He dedicates numerous chapters to John Wesley. He wasn't whipping up tons of emotions. In fact, he felt badly because he himself personally didn't feel like he had that conversion experience and began to wonder at the end of his life if that old-time Catholic religion was onto something by saying that this world is a valley of tears. So revival and restoration are not the same thing. I have a video that I did. It wasn't a year ago yet, but it was a while ago. And it was on the restoration of all things in Christ, right? Pius X, right? And so, an encyclical. And I go through it. I'm going to share that. I'll edit it down to make sure that it's just that particular topic. And I'll share it this week on Meaning of Catholic. But in trying to figure out how do we restore things, if we don't believe that we're destined or that we're on the fast track to doom and it's the end of it, we're doomed to ruin. It was good while it lasted, but it's gone. Or that if it's going to go away, then it's going to go through a time. It's not just going to vanish. We're not just all going to just disappear and nobody's in America or in the West at all. There's going to be power struggles, especially in a more balkanized world, which is what we're experiencing now. Then we have to come up with certain ideas to move forward. We have to have a social theory. I saw a great point. Somebody said, you can't just criticize culture theory or critical theory. You can't just criticize it. You know, critical race theory, it's a lot of people are talking about it, finally. But the thing is, you can't just say, well, that's not going to work. What is your response back to that? What is the social theory that you have that is better? Because you can't beat something with nothing. And somebody, I remember seeing it, I don't know where it was, just real simple. Catholic social teaching. Yes. You got to beat something with something. And we have to have something good. You have to have that story. You have to be different. The world you were born in no longer exists. Fact. I know I'm supposed to say that's my opinion. I don't think that anybody would disagree with that. The world you were born in no longer exists. Do you feel this way? Do you sense it in your bones? Deep down inside, does it cut you deep? What are those things that used to be there that simply aren't anymore? I remember for me, an iconic moment was the realization of the playground and how Nintendo, I wrote a piece called Nintendo Killed My Playground. And what that did in our local neighborhood and what it is now. I drive by it still. I drive by that neighborhood and I see where we all used to play. There's no kids playing outside anymore. That's assuming that neighborhood even has kids in that neighborhood anymore. The way things are going now, you can never really know. The world you were born in no longer exists. Hilary Belloc in The Great Heresy says, the modern attack or Antichrist, it is all one. There's a clear issue now joined between the retention of Christian morals, tradition, and authority on the one side, and the active effort to destroy them on the other. The modern attack will not tolerate us. You know it's true, don't you? You know it's true. It will attempt to destroy us. Nor can we tolerate it. We must attempt to destroy it as being the fully equipped and ardent enemy of the truth by which men live. The duel is to the death. Those are harsh words, aren't they? It's tough, I think, for the modern mind to even make sense of that. There's a book, what is it called? The Ball and the Cross by G.K. Chesterton. I am almost done. It's another book that I'm almost done with. It happens. About a duel that goes on between an atheist and a Catholic that are determined to take it out on each other to the death. But they live in a society that is against that. That says they're about tolerance, but yet they're trying to jail these guys. I think it's prescient, by the way. I think, however, and I'll turn that down. Sorry it was so loud. I think, however, that we need to be a little bit like this. Because it's easy to not only get cynical, to cave into despair. It's not only easy to do that. Let me get the comments up. I'm really sorry, guys. Yeah, I apologize for not engaging more in those comments. So let's get that elephant guy back up here. I want you to look at this guy. I think this is kind of how we need to deal with this. We got an elephant coming toward us. Zoom, zoom, zoom. What would you do? The man stands. The elephant doesn't know what to do. Well, does. This creature is not scared. This creature is standing firm. The first rule is to keep an untroubled spirit. The second is to look things in the face and know them for what they are. Marcus Aurelius. And one thing we can know for what they are is this. Talking about some fake junk. Tommy Lahren. Conservatism is for everyone. The you can't sit with us mentality is ridiculous, petty, and not helpful. It's a little bit redundant, isn't it? It's a little bit redundant. But the idea, look, if conservatism is in this sense for everyone, meaning everybody, every single person, doesn't matter what you believe, you can sit with us. If that's the case, then it's for no one. She's not thinking very smart. She's not doing too hot. Right here, Eric Stryker, pretending to be a conservative will not convince the majority of people to resist authority, no matter how unjust or illegitimate it is. On the other hand, and tell me what you think of this, by the way, emotional arguments, inspiring books, agitating music, powerful symbols, unaltered information, and demonstrations of physical and moral courage will. My side's going to build the ladder. Others can do Pat Buchanan 2.0. Whoever gets to power first wins. I think that there's things that are right in there and things that are wrong. I think you got to eat the meat and spit out the bone. Isn't it true? It's good to see you, by the way, CF. I see you in the comment section. What's up? Yeah. Yeah, and I have to say this is just so wrong. KMO 9000. The only true purpose for dogs is to be bred for delicious meat. Bro, what's wrong with you, man? Next Thanksgiving, you should try roasting a puppy. Dude, this is a family show instead of a turkey. And dude, dogs, look, I gotta admit, I'm a cat person. I love dogs too. I have a St. Bernard for crying out loud. I've had a Treeing Walker Coonhound. I've had a Collie. But cats... I'm a big cat person. Yeah, and Pesach says 1906 Azusa Street revival. That one, yes. So much of it started there, right? But people forget that Azusa Street didn't just happen out of nowhere. It's a product of the holiness movement. So okay, back to this. I think that it's true that we need to have arguments that are not just logical. It needs to be logical, but just because it's logical doesn't make you data. You know, or Spock. Is it data? Data. Data. You know, it doesn't matter. The idea that you're not going to be stuck in this world where you're like, look, I'm just trying to convince a whole bunch of people that literally have turned themselves over to the devil. Wow. And it's just, it's this rationalistic concept that I think it does. I don't think it works anymore. I don't know if it ever really did. Rationalism is not awesome. It's not. You look at it and you say, I used to say facts without narrative is dead. It's one of the reasons why I really appreciate Charles Taylor, his take in Secular Age, the book. It's a tome. It's like 1,000 pages long. Gigantic. But he says it has to be told as a story. A story of how did we get here? How did we have it hundreds of years ago? Only a couple hundred. Where the idea of not believing in God in a real tangible way was kind of taboo. I mean, you knew there were people who didn't, but most of them were academics, weird poets drinking a whole bunch of absinthe and stuff. To the point now where it's weird for you to believe in that old-time religion. How did we get there? And he uses story, narrative. It's necessary. It resonates with people. That's why even with the gospel, we refer to it, the greatest story ever told. And it is. It's told as a story. It's not just a simple documentation. It's not an encyclopedia. Inspiring books. Agitating music. Yeah, that would be controversial, of course. You know, but you have to have music that is set apart. Music is important. I think it's one of those things I was glad to see at rallies that started to take place before the election. I was glad to see drummers start to get involved. And, inspiring books. I'm guilty of this too. I've been writing a book and editing a book of poetry for a while. Now, in fairness to myself, if I can, the book is really tough. I'm almost done. I've been almost done for a long time. In fact, if you want to hear a sample chapter, I do a dramatic reading of it on my Telegram channel. And you can find that over at PaleocratDiaries. But it's about my daughter's life and death with childhood brain cancer and how that was providential, in fact, to our family coming back to the faith on Christmas Eve. 4 years ago now. Powerful symbols. To be artists, in fact. To be architects. To begin saying, we can provide something that's better. It's one thing to criticize the monstrosities of modern architecture or so-called, modernist art, stuff like that. It's easy to do. It's harder to say, look, I'm going to sit down with a pen and a pencil, a piece of paper, an easel with paint. I'm going to sculpt something. I'm going to do metallurgy, whatever it is. I'm going to learn drafting to create something that's better, that when people go by it, that there's something within them that recognizes beauty, that recognizes magnificence. Because those things don't fall into the equalitarian scheme of things. No matter all the propaganda in the world, something resonates with people when they see something truly beautiful. Demonstrations of physical and moral courage. Because we see things like this. DOJ declares vaccine mandates legal. Happening. Federal law, quote, federal law does not prohibit public agencies and private businesses from requiring COVID-19 vaccines that are under emergency use authorization, the Department of Justice concluded in an opinion. I have here, listen to what we're dealing with, folks. I have here the Secretary of Veteran Affairs, Washington. Dear veteran, this is June 21st. Listen to this. We must once again ask you to volunteer to serve. Hey, imagine seeing this and be like, really? What's going on? COVID-19 has affected all of us in unique ways. We've lost far too many former brothers and sisters in arms, family members and friends over the last year. It's time for this pandemic to be over, and I ask for your help in protecting the nation and completing the last part of this journey. Our greatest hope in defeating this deadly virus is for each of us to get vaccinated as soon as possible. And now it's mandatory for people working at the VA. I have a friend who contacted me recently. Has a job, private sector. They may start requiring that. He's worried about it. He's already made great sacrifices for his family. But there are things that we can do. For example, people have asked me, they said, what are you going to do? What are you going to do if you can't go to the store, if you can't do this or that? I had a Y Center membership, right? I used to lift weights and go to the sauna and stuff over there. So then the question is, what do you do? What do you do now if they require masks or if they require vaccination? I say push-ups, learn to run, walk more. What about the sauna and stuff? Go outside. Go outside. I should probably be doing that anyway. We got this awesome heat source up in the sky called, the sun. It's called the sun. But these are things you can do. Look, you can grow your own food. Learn how. I grew some stuff. I learned how to garden. I got to start doing it at my home now. I did it at a previous home. I got to start doing it again. Get connected with the earth. Get down. Get your hands dirty again. Homeschool if you have to. I saw a great homeschooling video yesterday. There's a commercial on YouTube. It was talking about all the different rules that are required for kids to go to school. Sitting in their little bubbles and all that, right? In their little cubicles, little glass cubicles with masks on. Don't get near little Timmy. Don't get near little Sally. You might get the corunkadunk. If you have to, homeschool them. Or make an additional sacrifice. Work extra hours. Do what you got to do to get your kids the heck out of public school. And I'm serious about that. Do what you have to do. Make those sacrifices. Show some grit. You sit there and you say, well, I can't do it. I don't make enough money. Then make money. Do what you have to do. Pray. God is not leaving you. I'm telling you, I can tell you this. It's my opinion. I guess I got to stress it. It's my opinion, my strongly held conviction that God would love maybe nothing more in your life as a parent than for you to stop sending your kids to those satanic propaganda factories. End. Period. Bottom line. It's over, son. God's not sitting there going, well, no, I think you really do need to send them there, where they talk about super satanic junk. Bunch of scientific nonsense. It's a death cult. Fear factories. Formidable minds do not belong there. Nobody does. It's a death cult. We can see this. Look at the difference between these things. Before you head off this evening, take some time to ponder on the current state of men in our culture. From empty trends to sickly distractions and mental issues, our men find ourselves aloft in a sea of disordered conduct and unhappiness. It doesn't have to stay this way. What is truly moral and righteous may not always be appreciated by our times, but it is what will set the blaze that embodies the masculine and chivalrous spirit. Modesty works for men and women. Your body is the temple of the Spirit. It was created in the image of God. The way you treat it and dress it reflects how much respect you have for yourself and your community. You can look great without causing scandal. That is an amazing line. You can look great without causing scandal. Because you don't have to look. I used to dog and say, you don't have to dress up like Little House on the Prairie. But then when I went back, and I've always loved the show. I'm not meaning to dog them either. But when I went back and started watching the show, I said, they're actually dressing kind of nice. I kind of like their outfits. Catherine's looking good. It's true. You know it's true. But you can make a difference. You don't have to be the person who dresses like a scumbag. St. Francis de Sales talks about this in Philothea. Talks about it in the devout life to say, look, how you should dress, how you should wake up in the morning, what you should do with your day. Should you be clean? Yes. Should your house be orderly? Yes. Is it? Mine's not. Working on it. Actually, boys got in trouble recently. Ambrose kicked in the door. They were fighting at the door. Athen thought it'd be funny. Athanasius was like, I'm going to lock him out. I'm going to make sure that he doesn't get in here. And Ambrose got real ticked. Ended up kicking the door. Broke part of the door. Cost me $90. Not happy about that at all. In fact, there's numerous moral lessons that need to be conveyed on this. And some confession. Boy's got to get on his knees, talk to a priest. But here's the thing. It also provided a great opportunity for them to realize, look, okay, if you can't play video games, if you can't just watch whenever certain things you want to watch, you're going to go outside, you're going to get that dirt in your fingers. You're going to go downstairs, you're going to work with us for hours and hours a day. You're going to work because you're going to pay me back. And you're going to learn what it means, another day, another dollar. You're going to learn what it means when you kick something, there's a consequence to that. Yes, you're forgiven, but there's temporal ramifications. And the temporal ramification is you're getting your butt downstairs and you're going to help clean. So I'm hoping that by the time it's all paid off, this house is going to be sparkling clean. And the boys will always remember it, and so will I. Because I'm working with them. We can look at this and say, how are we influenced by corporations? Do they run your life? And do you think that they don't when they really do? I know so many people. What is it? Third person effect? I'm so sick and tired of how the media controls all these other people. Says person without original idea. And that's normal, by the way. That's normal. There's a flow to information. Most people aren't original thinkers in that sense. They're not pushing paradigms and stuff like that. They talk a big game, but the truth is most people get, they have certain people that they go to, certain institutions that they go to that informs their worldview and gives them arguments to back it up, and they make those claims. But one of the strongest is, the corporations. And yes, I'm all down with that. I'm saying, look at the corporations. And not just the corporations, but the owners, by the way, of those corporations. It's easy to look at them and to fall for the Mitt Romney scam of corporations are people too, my friend. Corporations are people too. No, they aren't. No, people own that. And if a person owns a person, you got yourself some slavery. Right here, Cicero. I've always been of the opinion that unpopularity earned by doing what is right is not unpopularity at all, but glory. That is needed right now in a time like ours. We are so influenced. Our culture is so influenced by corporations, whether it is, they're not, for example, when COVID happened, remember if you went on YouTube or if you went on Prime, how inundated everybody was with a constant barrage of, we're in this together. Everybody's dying. Look at Grampy and Grammy. Remember? The people standing by the door, little kids on their birthday, and the person's outside doing the outside, happy birthday. Creepy stuff, man. Or the Black Lives Matter stuff. Remember that? You could go to YouTube at the top, all Black Lives Matter stuff. I was getting it sent to me on Facebook saying, you might be interested in this. I'm like, for one, I never get stuff like that from rando nonsense. They were having me watch stuff. They were putting it in my notifications. This person uploaded a video. I didn't like their page. I didn't follow them. Nothing. And what was it about? Oh, I don't know. How Black Lives Matter is the greatest thing since sliced bread. They're not doing that because they think it's a failure. Mark Gillespie in the comments says there's no human answer for this. The chastisement is coming. Only those of you who are devoted to put Mother Mary will survive. Some of us may be given the glory for martyrdom. It's a possibility, isn't it? I don't pretend to have a magic crystal ball, though. I'm not meaning to dog you. I mean, look, I put it in here. It's a possibility, and that we might be in this kind of last of days thing. But if it's not, I don't want to come out looking like Harold Camping either. And I think people who do say that it's the end, if it's not the end, I think those people should be shamed. I mean that, by the way. And I'm not meaning to point out, guy in the comments. I don't want to dog him. Because he might be right. Let's see. There was a time in which it was church steeples that stood the tallest in our towns and cities. drawing attention toward the heavens as a constant reminder of the temporality of this life. Totally true. Now, in our modern corporate world, there's little time for such novelties. The pursuit of metaphysical truths is an inconvenient stoppage in the well-oiled assembly line of modern man. But isn't that partly to do, however, with the way that civilizations work? A high culture starts out as a high culture, extremely united, typically small, largely agrarian, with cities that even visually you can tell what is the core of that culture. You have your cathedrals, you have your churches, your steeples. And then eventually, as it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, it turns into civilization as something distinct from high culture. It's a civilization. Economics becomes supreme. Egalitarianism, technics. And you can see that in the development of the cities. Because now you can drive downtown and you're going to see steeples, but they're dwarfed by money. You can see who you worship in the skyline. And I agree here, let me say this, I agree with a concerned Catholic. I keep hearing that. There's no political solution, but God can use natural means. I agree with that. You know, I am not one, that's why I'm talking about restoration. That's why I believe that it wasn't stupid of the Pope, especially Pius X, St. Pius, to write an encyclical that talks about how do we restore all things in Christ. That wasn't that long ago. That wasn't that long ago. And so if we sit there and we say, well, you know, then the end happened. Well, maybe it wasn't timed very well. We could have used that a lot earlier, Holy Fathers. I don't believe that. I think we still have work to do. In fact, I look at this as an opportunity. I look at it as, you know, hope for the best, work for the best, but give a realistic chance to the possibility, right, that it's not going to turn out. I think that's a balanced approach. At least you gave it a shot. But I think no political solution at this point in the West is because we have purely democratic solutions. And the idea, and I agree with that in that sense, that, look, you hear people say, you got to get on the school board. Whoop-de-doo, man. Whoop-de-doo. No offense. I mean, I know it's a great ambition. People want to be on a school board. Maybe they can make a difference in their own little area. But by this point, it's dominated by a bureaucracy that's so massive and so sealed off, so entrenched with these Marxist ideas and these checks and balances, for no other way of saying it, their checks and balances, pulled right out of the pit of hell, to make sure that the way that they have set this in place, that their domination, their schemes of domination, that flip side of dominion through Christ, the flip side of that it can't be overturned by a single individual thinking they're going to be, what is it, Mr. Smith goes to Washington? I'm going to go and I'm going to change all the things by myself. No, you aren't. That is a movie, and it is, you know, fake. Phony bologna sauce. We all play a role, but that ain't how that works. And you're not going to say, well, if we just vote in somebody, we voted in Donald Trump. A lot of us did. We had high, at least moderate to high expectations of what could be accomplished. And it seemed, look, you were living it in a way, you were living a dream. You were riding a wave. It was great. On the other hand, it was easily toppled by a simple squiggly mark of a pen from a really messed up dude in the head who didn't even know what he was signing. I don't even know what's going on here. Somebody help me. And he signs it, and guess what? Bada boom, poof, gone. Political solution. We can't emphasize enough the need to stay physically and mentally in shape. Everyone's requirements in situation differ, but the goals overlap. Whether you're an average Joe, Johnny Q and Sally Sue, whether you're an average Joe, a serviceman, or someone with a dad bod, your fitness helps you and your family. Learn to eat, sleep, exercise, and pray. I think that right there is great. Learn to eat, sleep, exercise, and pray. Challenge yourself every day and week. As your effort grows, the strength of your body and your spirit will also grow. Oh, I don't even need to deal with this guy. I'm not even going to deal with that. Not going to deal with it. We're going to move ahead. Because I don't want to go on forever. Western society has accepted as unquestionable a technological imperative that is quite as arbitrary as the most primitive taboo. Not merely the duty to foster invention and constantly to create technological novelties, but equally the duty to surrender to these novelties unconditionally. Ain't that a fact? Ain't that a fact? Oh, look at that new device coming out. I gotta get it. It's like the Pokemon. Gotta catch them all. Technology. It's true. That's how adults deal with it. They're like, oh, look. I gotta go ahead. I gotta get as much of this technology as I possibly can. I want to get them all. I want to get them all. And to surrender to them all the way without any kind of consideration. I won't go into it too much because I'm going to do a show on digital minimalism soon. Just because they're offered without respect to their human consequences. Lewis Mumford. And what do we look like? What are we turning into? Looks like Batman ain't Robin, as well as the Penguin, the Riddler, and, the Joker. Even the military is starting to really worry about this. They're looking at projections of obesity for kids through the roof. It's like 80% of the country is in the red. And we're not talking like a little overweight. We're talking straight up obese, son. These are things we can do. But they're not going to be easy. Let me not then die ingloriously and without a struggle, but let me first do some great thing that shall be told among men hereafter. It's from the Iliad. And I love this right here. Humanity Against Evil. Cellini, 1908. Look at the struggle. Look at the posture of the man. Look at the muscles. Look at the effort. The way his fingers are pulling. The difficulty. The way the head is drooped down. The strain. It is not easy. A couple days ago, I have my own struggles, And I was sitting there and I was dealing with something, and I was having the hardest time focusing. I've had trouble before in the past, even going to sleep. Struggling, thinking about it, fighting back. And not always winning, but going to confession, getting on my knees and weeping and saying, I need to keep going. I need to fight another day. I need to fight another day. And the reason why, hold on a second. What is this? Let me move this bugger up here. Let me move this bugger up. Or down. I don't know. Okay, there we go. Yeah, we're good. This is the end of it. For now, because we're going to talk, as I said, I'm going to post about the restoration of all things in Christ. We're going to talk about that. Pope St. Pius X. I'm going to share that video that breaks it down, the encyclical, specifically dealing with that. I'll edit it down from the full, because at the time I was doing like 2-3 hour long videos. But right here, the let me not die ingloriously and without a struggle. The next one, no one is obliged to take part in the spiritual crisis of a society. Spiritual crises of a society. On the contrary, everyone is obliged to avoid the folly and live his life in order. How about this one? For traditional societies, all the importance, and here's why. Let me say this first. Number one, we need to be willing to say, I don't want to die ingloriously. God put me here for a glorious purpose. The end result is to be with him in heaven, it is true, but it is through the temporal order. It is through those symbols. It is through that relationship. It is through the institution of the church, through the sacraments, through the crucifixion. Talk about a powerful symbol. It is through that. And look at the struggle. Look at the glorious struggle. Gethsemane. Are we there? Are we praying with our Lord there? And in fact, I love this too, Vogelin. We're not obliged to take part in the spiritual crises of a society, but we are obliged to avoid the folly and to live our life in a way that's orderly. And here's something that really helps. Two things that help. Number one, for traditional societies, all the important facts of life were revealed, what would you say that, ab origine? By gods or heroes. Men only repeat the exemplary and paradigmatic gestures ad infinitum. It's been done before. These great things have been done. Nothing greater can possibly be done. We're walking in footsteps. We're sitting on shoulders of giants. We are not carrying this alone. We have a Savior that we can lay our burdens on him. Nothing is stronger. Nothing is greater. Nothing has more power and authority right now in this world than Christ the King. Period. End of story. You can look out at the world and see how wrong it is, see how bad it is, and you can sit there and say, you have nothing. You have nothing that was not given or permitted you by my Lord. End. End of it. We need to stand strong in that. We need to stand strong in that. And to realize he blazed that trail. Because he blazed that trail, he has all power and all authority right now. Our job, baptize nations, discipling them right now to the end. Until when? Until all the enemies have been placed under his feet and the only enemy left is death. Is that the last enemy under his feet right now, death? If not, we got work to do. And don't be discouraged. St. Francis Xavier, be great in little things. This is one of the big things of my work in my life. And I've seen the fruits of this in other people who've come up and talked to me. That I always say things like, the Johnny Q's and the Sally Sue's of this world. The everyday, ordinary folks. The world is filled with them. We do need the elites. I mean, there's no doubt about it. My view of how things change and how things work requires the involvement. In fact, leading of the elites. There's hierarchy. We're Catholics, guys. We're Catholics. We can't decry equalitarianism and this socialistic leveling of society and then insist that a socialistic leveling of society is what's needed to fix everything. That's bizarre. Cognitive dissonance through the roof. At the same time, we all have a role to play. God gave us gifts and talents. I'm not a bazillionaire. I'm barely a thousandaire. So I have to look and say, what are the gifts and talents God gave me? How do I keep that fire burning? How do I invest that money? How do I make sure that I don't hide it under a bushel or dig a hole and put it in the ground? How do I exercise it each and every day? How has it worked in and through me? Allowing the Holy Ghost to work in and through me to do things that I am called to do, destined, in fact, to do. Which is why I can't be defeatist. I can't. Even in the end, even if it's in the end, I want to be the guy with a smile on my face and Jesus burning bright in my heart. And everybody's saying, what's that guy about? And they say, the Lord, God, family, republic. God, family, Christ the King. You know, but that requires me to do those little things. And I'll list them real fast. To sit there and say, look, you have to be able to wake up. Wake up in the morning. Learn to wake up earlier. Learn to cadence your life. In fact, when I started this show on Meaning of Catholic, my first idea was to ask Tim, say, can I schedule it so that it's 1 hour before or 1 hour after sunset as sunset changes throughout the year? You know, or sunrise, right after, an hour after sunrise or an hour before sunset? Because I believe we need to get our lives back into a cadence with the natural order of things. I'm not opposed to clocks and watches. In fact, I collect pocket watches. I like them. But I believe we need to get back to simple things. Wake up with the sun. Go to sleep with the moon. I think we need to start eating better. Say, look, that food, if it's Franken food over there, maybe you shouldn't eat that. Are you actually hungry or not? I was talking to my daughter. Here's a simple thing. Eat only when you're hungry and only eat until you're full. And try to eat food that is not Franken food. Learn what it means to be hungry. What does that mean? Because we think, she came in, can I have this food? She wanted some food. It wasn't even bad food, but she wanted it. And I said, are you hungry? She said, yes. I said, how do you know? And we'd never talked about this before. And she goes, well, it sounds good. I said, did your stomach hurt? No. When did you eat last? A couple hours ago. Have you exercised at all? Like, did you go running or something? No. Yeah, in the comments, eat to live. Don't live to eat. That's a simple thing to do. Dress modestly. You don't need to dress scandalously. In fact, I strongly implore you, don't do it. Look at your wardrobe and ask yourself, why do I wear that? Am I really bringing glory to God, or am I bringing, people's eyeballs to certain curves on my body? Reevaluate your social media. Ask yourself not just the kind of content that you're posting, but why are you posting it at all? It's a billboard, for crying out loud. What are you posting on your billboard? What kind of commercials are you sharing with the world? That's what your posts are. So when you sit there and you're taking constant selfies, it's saying something about you. You want to be seen. And I would say, God sees you. God sees you, brother. God sees you, sister. You don't need all these people looking at you. Go make something. Go pray. Learn a craft. Learn a skill. Develop new patterns of behavior. Get away from it. Learn to play an instrument. Learn to paint or to draw. Learn to memorize poetry. Do something. And I'm asked if am I wearing anything to draw attention to my curves. Believe me, dude, even if that was on my mind, now with the curves I've got, because I'm working on some of the principles we were talking about earlier. Like maybe only eat when you're hungry and only eat till you're full, and get outside and start to, sweat. I ran last night. Again, I ate it, but I did it. I also ride bike. And I also lift weights. And I'm eating better. And I'm not snacking at night. I'm drinking water. I'm doing a good job. And I'm not saying to dress ugly. You're doing the world and beauty a disservice when you're dressing like, some kind of gross person. When you look homeless, there's no reason for that. That's the kind of humility of the quietist like Madame Jean Guyon, who sat there and was quite beautiful, but to make herself not beautiful was scratching all of the pox on her face and ended up being super scarred. Still attractive. But the idea, I don't want to be beautiful, so I'm going to intentionally scar myself this way. And then write about it in my autobiography. Yes. But be great in little things, right? Be great. Not mediocre. Not mediocre. Not sitting there going, well, maybe I'll do a little bit here or a little bit there. Be great. Be the you that God made you to be. Be the you that God made you to be. And, of course, keep watching the show. Keep watching the show. I'm grateful for all of you, by the way. I love this. I hope you do too. I know, look, people might agree or disagree. You might think, this guy's out of his mind. This guy's a cuckoo, crazy weirdo. That's true. One guy said yesterday in the comments, this guy's nuts. And I wrote, oh yeah, I keep saying the same thing. That's what I say. The guy's totally cuckoo crazy. But I love what I do. I love the Lord. I love my family. I love my church. And I love you. I mean that. So make sure, PaleocratDiaries.com. Go check it out. I'm trying to post there more regularly. I promised that I would. For interviews, speeches, and other inquiries, contact PaleocratDiaries@gmail.com. You can find over there a whole bunch of stuff, including a way to become a member. I'm talking to somebody behind the scenes. I'm going to have to pay money. And it's okay. I tried doing it by myself, but the truth is, I think it's one of those things that would be better if somebody who really knew what they were doing, that's their calling, their vocation, that they can help to really streamline my site so that I can begin making videos and content that's really private, only for the people who pay. It's like $5 a month. It's not very much. And every penny that I make, and this has been true from day one, every penny goes toward my kids' education, classical Catholic education at Sacred Heart Academy. Of course, I'm going to be on Crusade channel with Kennedy Hall later today. Make sure to check that out. Keep your eyes on Me and Catholic. Click that bell, subscribe, get all the notifications. And until next time, never give up, keep on smiling, and memento mori.